Okay, we're live. Hi, Neil.
Hello.
We have a lot of topics today. Do you
Yep,
want to drive? Do you want to go first?
definitely. I mean,
I see personalizing productivity, uh, strength and weaknesses on languages. What do you want to do?
whatever I can start with just the fact that I was looking at productivity and personalizing it,
Yeah,
which I mean sounds like the obvious thing to do.
yeah. So
But yeah,
today, I just want to preface this by saying that today we are doing a slightly different format, right?
okay, yeah.
We don't have anything. I don't know what you're going to say. You don't know what I'm going to say. We just have a list of topics that
Yes.
we thought were interesting throughout the last week. And I
Yep.
texted you and I said, just let's just make a list and we'll just discuss everything live. Uh,
Yes.
Start shooting.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So what do you want to go? Go ahead.
Yeah. No, we're just gonna like shoot stuff and we're gonna see like what comes up because yeah, I think the last time whenever we do like us trying to be more structured, it always ends up like somewhere. And
Yeah, I know.
yeah. Now I was just thinking like as a thought while I was outside and I was wondering that what am I doing wrong currently for not being as productive as I want to be.
Hmm.
And so I have tried, a couple of YouTube videos. Then you start with like books, and then you try put everything in Notion. So I'm like one of those like Notion people now, and I
I'm
make.
a newly converted Notion people.
Are
But
you?
I use it like a Google Doc, so I don't know how. But I use it like a at a third grader's level.
Oh, you're gonna love it. But the more you use it, the more you're gonna find out, and then the more like you learn, it's gonna really structure you, which is
Yeah.
a good thing. But yeah, no, a full Notion fan. I think if you have like the chance of like learning more and more, especially the databases and stuff like that, which I think is the core.
I just found it so cool because I have a friend from undergrad and
Yeah,
he is a product manager
right,
and he started making Notion templates about 6 months ago. He
right.
makes he makes like $500 a month just of passive income of just he just makes Notion templates, puts it up on the Notion website, and that's it.
Yeah, it's
And I
amazing.
asked him, how do you market it? How do you promote it? He says, I don't do anything. The people just come through the Notion website. So
Wow.
apparently it's a bit of a steal right now if you're able to do it. It's a bit of an opportunity right now if you're able to build the right types of Notion templates. Now this guy's obviously been doing it for many years. So
Yep.
that's why he's very good at it.
Yeah.
But I was surprised by the fact that he says that there's no marketing involved, which I would have
Yes.
assumed there is.
I would also assume that there is, but that's crazy that that must have been like testament to how good his product is or how good his it is,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah, that's true. Sorry, you were saying. Go ahead.
No, that's exactly where the power of Notion comes into place, where you can personalize a process and lay it out on Notion or on any other medium,
Hmm.
and you can keep customizing it to your needs.
Yeah.
And my main concern was that first I tried. I don't know if you've heard Tiago Forte's para method.
I don't think so. The name sounds familiar.
Yeah, so Tiago Forte is like he's a YouTuber and I think he's also an author. I don't know which one came first, but he's probably like mostly known for his YouTube channel.
Hmm.
But currently he's really famous for his book called Building a Second Brain.
Okay.
And it's all the rage. Like I'm probably saying something that hundreds of people have probably said it in podcasts or any other medium before. But to give you like a quick overview is the idea is that the brain or your memory is is for you to experience new things.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever there is that needs to be memorized or something, that you should put it in a system.
Mm.
So the same way where, you know, decade ago, people memorized phone numbers, and then they had notebooks because they could not memorize those, like a lot of phone numbers. And now
Yeah.
you just don't need a notebook anyway. You just have your phone. And it's in the same way where sorry, I'm just trying the right way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
So your second brain to him is where you keep all your data, and you review it every day, and that's how you proceed in life. So I'll tell you what the para method is in his second brain, which is PARA. It's project, areas, resources, and archives. And which is exactly how I've made my Notion, or close to it, with a few adjustments of my own. Projects is your active projects, whatever you want to do based on your goals. These are the things that you will do probably like every day. And those tasks will, there will be tasks in your Notion, or like in your Notion database, and they will be linked to a project. So you know exactly what you're working towards every day, a little by little, and you're seeing the progress in those particular projects. Areas is whatever areas you have in your life, whether it be relationship, whether it be your maybe like music career, it could be like a hobby of yours, or it's the friends and the family, your career and stuff like that. So this area is basically how you um, areas are how you organize your life into different sections, so that you're not giving up on one over the other, or you're not spending too much time on one and then you realize that, oh, I haven't spent much time with my friends or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. And of course, these areas are then linked to the projects. And so you know which project is affecting which area of your life. So you're kind of having this holistic sense of what your life is about.
Mm.
Then comes resources, which are your articles, your notes, your websites, anything that you find interesting. And this happens to me a lot. I either put them in the bookmark section on my Safari or Google Chrome, and then I completely forget about it.
Yeah.
And if I have to ever, you know, come back to it, I will come back to it. But by the time I do come back to it, I've lost all context of why I saved it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have like a system of where you keep all of these things based on the areas and projects, and this is just, you can see the theme of linking things here, then whenever you see the project, you'll see the resources related to it. And then you know exactly when and where those resources will be used.
Mm-hmm.
Last A, PARA, is archives, which is where you just archive everything.
Mm.
In all of these three sections, and maybe by the end of the year um you have like a system where you can reflect on it, and you can see your stats and stuff like
Mm.
that.
And so
So
how does that get converted into actual Notion doc or
right,
something that you use practically?
I mean, I'm would the podcast be okay, like can I share my screen? Would
Mm.
that be something?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to give too much away of my personal information,
I mean,
but
whatever you are comfortable sharing.
I think it's going to be fine. I don't think I have anything like,
I've enabled you to share.
yeah.
Okay.
Can you see?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just accidentally clicked on my Fusion 360, but
Yeah.
I'm
The,
getting
you can take a moment. You can remove the nudes if you want to, perhaps.
yeah, yes, I'll do that. Yeah, this one I don't want you to see. This one I might just slip it in as like an Easter egg. Um,
Neil wearing nothing but a Santa hat.
okay, Right.
Yeah. What's this supposed to be?
Can you
This
see?
this this already looks so complicated to me because I don't know how to make any of this in Notion.
And neither did I. This is
Yeah.
like a month's work, maybe every weekend for 1 hour.
Wow.
So I would say maybe like 8 hours worth of work,
Okay.
but spread over like a month, and it's
Right.
not that bad. It's
All right.
actually easy.
All right.
So
Walk us through it.
here's my dashboard.
Okay.
The first thing is I check is my appointments,
Mm-hmm.
just to see like what it is that I have to do, and because appointments to me is um the biggest commitment because other people are involved, and if I um ever make any changes to those commitments, I'm losing my trust in myself, but I'm also making other people lose trust in me.
Yeah.
So the first thing I do is check, okay, who do I need to talk to? What are the meetings that I have done? What is it that I have to do? What are the events and stuff like that?
Mm.
The second thing is capture. As you can see, there's like a new task box, and
And
the
and and I also see that you have something called high energy, weekend, low energy. What's that?
yeah,
In the table above.
right, yeah. So I'll walk you through it. And in my capture section, anything that I need to think about, or maybe anything that I need to do at the moment that I'm like, oh, I should do this. Oh, I haven't done groceries yet. Oh, I need to get milk. I'll
Mm.
put it on my task inbox.
Okay.
And maybe at night, I will check my task inbox, and then I will categorize each one of them according to the date, which is when I want to do it, the deadline, which is when should be done with it, even if I don't do it, you know, the day that I said that I will.
Right.
Uh, which week is it? The daily priority, which is how I categorize the priority of the action itself. So it could be an appointment, it could be the one thing, as you can see this one, that if I don't do that one thing that day, I'll feel bad. The
Mm.
quick tasks based on morning, lunch, night, and as and when, which is just like whenever you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
A good thing that I do as well is put some context to what is it that I'm doing, or how is it that I'm supposed to achieve those tasks,
Right.
and see that it's a high energy task. So I know that, okay, I need probably sit down, not have any distractions, put my phone off to do this task. This task will be done with a computer and a notebook. It could be a low energy task, so I could probably do it maybe while I'm walking, or maybe while I'm in the bed or in the couch with my phone or my laptop. If it's related to family, office, home, you get the point. And as we talked about last podcast, dead time, which I call whenever I'm traveling. So if there's anything that can be done within that time, so I'll quickly, categorize it here.
Mm.
And whenever I see my inbox or my daily list, I'll be like, oh, this is dead time right now, and I can do these things in this time. And so I'll do it over walking, or, what have you.
Okay.
Related projects, I'll have a bunch of projects. So this competition that I want to do will be its own separate project,
Mm.
but it's a competition on toy design. So I might just put it on like toy design job. So I know exactly what I'm doing to progress to become a toy designer.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see, like there are some things that I haven't done yet.
Yeah.
From the last 30 days, last 7 days, yesterday, and then today, what I have to do. And as you can see, the podcast is also one of them.
Right.
So this just
Oh,
gives me like
you're really on top of things.
I'm trying. I mean, this is the structure that I've kept, because I'm famously known to not have any structure in my life. Like
Mm-hmm.
I love doing things as and when they come, make really erratic decisions. And I think that has cost me over some time. And so I think this is my action to change all of that. As you can see, the power of Notion is that once you have these databases, it's just like any other database software, to be
Mhm.
honest. It's like once you put on the data and you have all the categories and all the parameters set, then you can make different views on it. And so you can see
Yeah,
that this is my daily view. This is the to-do list that gives me like everything.
yeah,
This is a weekly analog thing. And what analog means is, by the way, this is all copied from this YouTuber that I can share the link of and
right.
walk through the process of making this.
Yeah, okay. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this week, analog means that um, I have a certain number of things to do in the week. I might get the time to do it on the Friday, for instance, like apply part-time job on the Friday, but let's say I didn't do it on the Friday, so I can just drag it and put it in Sunday.
Okay.
And so I know what I need to get done within the week, but how they are done within the week is quite flexible to me.
Right.
And this week date is the inflexible part where I've just set up just dates on them so I don't change
Hmm.
these.
Okay.
Right.
Got it.
So
So,
that my daily habits come into place. Just gonna gloss over this really
uh,
quickly. A review section to see how much I have done projects. I heard somewhere that you can only concentrate into to like maybe 3 or 4 projects at a time.
mm-hmm.
How you should see your productivity. So I only keep 3 projects, whatever I'm doing currently. And
Right.
so I focus on those and I leave everything as, as like a passive thing. And these are all my calendar and appointments related to that. But yeah, that's Notion.
Ooh, yeah. You know what my productivity stack is? I just have a Google Sheet in which
Right.
I write down, okay, these are the things I want to do this year.
Yes.
This is what I'm going to do over the next 6 months, 3 months, 1 month, and I review it once a month.
Right.
And apart from that, I just have a list of things that I want to do on a weekly basis or a daily basis that I'll just. So it's like literally tonight I'll sit down and decide what I'm going to do tomorrow, and that's it. That's pretty much all I do. You really have a handle on these things.
But I think and that's the ugly side of it that I wanted to talk about, is that when you do structure it, or maybe over structure something that you're not comfortable with,
Yeah.
it does start to slip a bit, because then you get overwhelmed with just how much you have planned for yourself. I
Hmm.
think I think if it works, the fact that Google Sheet works for you, and if it works for you, it's great.
I mean, yeah, I think for me personally, doing something like this would be a bit overwhelming.
Yep.
Also, I would find it unnecessary for myself. I
Yep.
would, I mean, for every fancy person who has, this fancy, let's say, to-do list app, you also
Yes.
have pen and paper that you can just
Yes.
and
Right.
I just find that to be because I've tried these things, it doesn't work for me. And also, I like to have some unstructured time in my day because
Yep.
I find that if I'm always filling up my time with different tasks and different work, then my brain isn't going to be thinking you know, about something creative that is going to strike or some problem that I want to work on that requires unstructured time.
Yep.
I don't know how you think about those things, or do you maybe factor that into your calendar as well?
I'm trying to factor that in because I have realized that some things need to be unstructured for me to be productive. For example, if I'm learning this, like having this online course on Blender, and I love doing online courses. For some reason, learning a new software and
By the way, Blender is like a tool that design engineers use, right? It's a software.
Yeah, mostly not design engineers. This Blender is a free open source 3D modeling software,
Okay.
and it's mostly used in 3D animation, 3D modeling for video games. So
Yeah,
every
because when you say Blender to a uneducated audience, it feels like you are
right,
doing a course on how to use a kitchen appliance.
catch kitchen right. Yeah, I wanted to make like chutney and perfect it as much as I could. So yeah,
Yeah.
but so I want to do
Sometimes
that.
I'll just be running a blender in the morning and my girlfriend goes to me like, "Sure."
Yup.
Yeah, I think the context for this joke will be lost because you were discussing this before recording.
Yeah. I think we'll keep it at that. And maybe if somebody wants to inquire about that, let us hit me up, hit us up, and we'll
Yeah,
let you.
yeah. The 41 subscribers for Dot on Target. If you have, if this keeps you up at night, why did we laugh at that joke? Please message us.
Please, please smash it. Yeah. This is
Yeah,
the clickbait section, by the way,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
of this.
I'll chop it up and put it right at the start.
Yeah. I I I think like with Blender and everything, I love doing Blender, but if I structure it, I get scared of doing it, so I never get around to do it.
Hmm.
If I leave it, let it be that, oh, I want to do, I feel like doing it because it's like an inclination. So I let the universe take over. And then once I do that, yes, it comes instantly. And I'm like, oh, I've opened up the online course, I've opened up the application as just as like a second nature. And I didn't even have to think about it. And it comes naturally. The other thing that I was thinking as well is that now that I have highly organized everything, I'm gonna break it down to a bit simpler or process that is much more suited to me. Because when like people say, and people who make this, they are completely different people than who I am, and
Hmm.
their personalities say, oh, you should do the hardest thing in the morning first thing.
Yeah.
And that's never been me.
Hmm.
I might, if I try it maybe for 1 year and I really push myself, I might do it.
Yeah.
But I feel like it will be more natural for me as an anxious person that I do something that I'm really comfortable with or that inspires me in the morning,
Yeah.
such as like this online course,
Yeah.
and then get around to do whatever I have to do.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Okay. I get that.
yeah,
I guess a lot of this advice is just about tailoring it to what works for you
yep,
because I'm the exact opposite. If I love to do the hardest thing on my schedule in the morning,
right,
so like whatever, and if I don't do it, then it'll bug me throughout the day
yes,
because you know your work day starts, people start calling you, you have so many interruptions during the day. That's why I like to get up really early in the morning and get that first chunk of work done. Um, for me, usually that's working on my blog posts or working on my websites. But uh, uh, like a lot of people, when I was doing that thing for the last 6 7 months of waking up at 4:30, a lot of people would come up and ask me how can I also do it. And
right,
the only thing I would say is, firstly, you just have to figure out if you're a morning person or a night owl,
yeah,
because so many people work really well at night. I am
yep,
not that person. I love waking up early. That's why I'm doing these type of things.
yeah,
So, it's not some written in stone anywhere that you need to do these five productivity things. It's more about trying out for yourself what works. And I think that's where people tend to sort of lose the message.
yep,
Also, like a Notion database works for you, but for me, just having a Google Sheet and a pen and paper works.
exactly.
And just having that flexibility is, I think, important.
Definitely. And which is why I also keep a notebook, and that is where I think things throughout the day. And I keep that really unstructured because I know that I need that flow of mind to do it. I
Hmm.
think what's interesting is that nobody kind of tells you like how you're supposed to personalize your productivity,
Yeah.
because they'll say, oh, but do what works for you. And I've been through the journey of finding out on how to find those things that work for me.
Yeah.
So, of course, it's first of all, it's starting out somewhere and
Hmm.
then failing.
Hmm.
I realize that failing is a huge part of it.
Yeah, of course. That's life though, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is. Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's not, but then you don't want to be in the trap of feeling bad that you have not been productive, even if you have a system,
Yeah.
because the system is not supposed to, change you. You're supposed to change the system, and they're both should be like a cohesive unit that works together.
Yeah. It is so strange though, because the more I read about sales, which is something that
Yeah.
we spoke about a lot over the last couple of podcasts. Today's newsletter also was about the psychology of sales in a way that I wrote. And I have started getting deeper into it. I always, at my last startup, I used to think of why was I so attracted towards sales. It's
Yeah.
because it's very intrinsically linked to psychology,
Yeah.
understanding yourself and understanding other people around you. And why I'm going on this tangent is because you said something that made me think. You said that you are reading a lot, or you started feeling bad that
Yes.
your if your productivity schedule went astray for even a day, you would feel bad about it, and
Yep.
then you start feeling guilty, and then that sort of loop would happen. The interesting thing is that uh, your brain is so wired in such a different and such a difficult way that most people just don't understand how it works. So, and why you start thinking this way. The
Yeah.
unlock that happened for me in the last 2 weeks, I would say, is that I started watching this series on your brain, how the
Yeah.
brain works, what are the different parts of the brain, how basically it was a neurologist's sort of take on um, why do we feel fear, why do we feel happiness, why do we feel love, why do we feel depressed, why do we feel grief, and all those things. And so he beautifully explained how the brain works. And the basic thing that I understood from all of this is that there are two drives, two emotions that
Mhm.
rule everything in the brain.
Right.
And that's one is fear
Yep.
and the other is pleasure.
Right.
These are the two drives that evolutionarily have made us what we are today.
Right.
And everything is centered around that.
Yeah.
Everything in the brain, every emotion is a subset of those two. And so, whether it's your biological drive to go and find a mate, or whether it is to go and find something, to find food or shelter, everything is centered around those things. And that's how you know instinctively to not put your hand in fire, because it's
Yeah.
going to cause pain. And that's how you learn. But what you were saying about productivity, or you're always, no one teaches you these things, you have to figure out a system for yourself, you fail, you feel bad about it.
Yep.
I believe that feeling bad is something that is an evolutionary instinct that you have to ignore and rather use as fuel rather than as something that paralyzes you,
Yep.
and use it as fuel to move forward, to try out something else, to talk to five other people that have succeeded in that thing you're trying to do. It could be building a productivity system, it could be getting a job, it could be whatever you want to do,
Yeah.
and basically use that pain as fuel. Because the other thing about us is that we don't want to change unless there is pain.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
Firstly, we're not ready to change. If somebody points out something, we always get defensive. And it's
Yep.
only when there is nothing that you can defend against, when you're at your rock bottom, that you're like, oh shit, I think I better change this. And that's when
Yes.
um and so the point is that if you're able to recognize that this is how my brain works, this is the feedback loop, and this is an evolutionary thing, you start using your logic there and be like, okay, now I need to break the pattern. So let me redirect this pain as fuel to propel me to something further, so to propel me to my next test.
Yeah.
or in my sort of building the productivity systems or whatnot. And basically just breaking this down. Now that I've watched those set of videos, now I'm trying to break down every sort of aspect of life into the like how your brain chemistry works.
Right.
It is so fascinating because I think a lot about thinking. I think a lot about how to think better or how to think
Yeah.
clearer. But this was a new level up in terms of, if you understand how the brain works, it makes you an even better thinker because you understand where you can fuck up in a way.
Do you feel whenever you think about the brain, how the brain works and how the chemicals in your brain works and how that informs all these complex emotions, when you break it down into those components, do you ever have like this emerging sense of how how animal animal like simple creature a human is? Like
I get the
it's
opposite.
complex. You think the opposite? That's yeah, right. Okay.
I
Because
think, yeah,
yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, it's just that whenever I think about that and I'm thinking like, oh, my complex emotions that are so important to me at this moment can be broken down into such simple and non-emotional things. And that makes me feel, I mean, humbled, but also makes me feel stupid. Like, wow, something that I give so much importance to my in my life is just another chemical, like, swishing around in my brain, or it's just another electrical signal.
What do you mean though? Give me an example.
Right. So if I'm to say like, okay, I'm having relationship trouble and
Yeah.
I'm thinking constantly about what's going to happen. How did I end up in this place? What is my love language? Why is this going wrong?
Mm.
What can I do about it? My life is, and it compounds into like a monster.
Yeah.
And if I see something, maybe like to relieve myself, I'll go and check how love works. And then you see that, I might be assuming here, but the brain chemistry, like how love works within the brain, is really not that complex, and it can really be broken down into just a few basic ideas, such
Yeah.
as you said, fear and pleasure.
Yeah.
And then I feel like, oh my God, my all of this that I thought within this few weeks can be broken down into such simpler things.
I get what you mean in the sense that, we're as humans, we are just using maybe 1% of our brain consciously, and everything else is, happening on its own. It's like autopilot, and it may listen to your conscious brain, it may not. You don't really
Yes,
have much control over it. So I get that. My point is slightly different, that because we're using that 1%, that is what makes it so different,
right,
and that is what adds that layer of complexity. So you feel like, you gave the example of love, or you see a cute girl, you feel attracted towards her, but then that's a lot of that is chemistry, a lot of that is your evolutionary instinct, and
right.
those are
Yes,
going to be those are going to be very, very standard, let's say,
yep,
across cultures. So does the other person have a symmetrical face, uh wide hips, and all of those things that they talk about females, and then for males as well, broad shoulders, are they tall, can they be protective,
right,
etc., etc. So those are all the basic things. Then there are, on top of that, then there are some cultural nuances, and that's where things start becoming, I think, different,
right,
because that's where you're using your frontal brain or your prefrontal cortex, which is
right,
your evolved brain, which is the one that's conscious somewhere. And so that's where you start analyzing, oh, is that person correct for me or not. That's where you start thinking about the love languages thing that you talked about, or
right,
compatibility. And that's equally important, because
right.
that's where we spend our life, really, in that 1%.
Yep,
And if we don't account for that, then that's why relationships fail so many times, because people just go on their basic instincts, their chemistry, but they never think about compatibility. And unless you're able to rein your animal brain in by constantly forcing your frontal brain to override your animal brain, and constantly, having a complete balance of emotion and logic. Emotion, I mean, roughly being, your instinct, and logic being something that your frontal brain drives, in a sense. Unless you're constantly sort of building that feedback loop and making it stronger over time, that's why
Right.
you have certain people that are very, very balanced, and that's why you have certain people that are very emotional or very irrational at times. And I think, after having seen everything, I could be wrong, is that it's a matter of what you believe in, firstly, and also how much you practice that part of your brain. That's
Right.
why, there are so many people that, uh, oh, I broke up with my girlfriend, I broke up with my boyfriend, they are going to be in a hole for the next 6 to 9 months
Yep.
before they emerge out of it. And then there are certain people that are able to move on much faster, are able to just feel healthier afterwards,
Yep.
or sort of convince. There's so many people that convince themselves, oh, that person is the only person for me,
Yep. Right.
and even though they're clearly not. And then there are people that are able to see the sort of forest through the trees and understand the picture as it is, because they're able to think clearer. And
Right.
so the only point is that, it's the same human brain. It's just that somebody is using it differently than the other person. And it's
Right.
really true, even, take it out of relationship context, take it into a business context. How why are some people better at sales? It's because they understand themselves much better. They understand the person they're talking to much better, and what their motivations are like. um and sort of, play doctor, really, to sort of understand what the root cause is, why
Right.
the other person is acting this way, and how to sort of navigate towards an outcome that both of them want, which is a sale. And basically, this was a long-winded way of saying that if you're interested to become a better salesperson, you should learn more about psychology. It's something I'm doing now. But I think that this is sort of that, if you want to be that top 1% in sales, or in business or in life, you need to understand how psychology works.
Yes, definitely. And there's this famous book which is like a holy Bible of designing things. It's called The Design of Everyday Things. Yeah, by Don Norman. And at first, when I went to like read that book, I was like, okay, I'm going to read about design. And it came to be that it was basically about people and psychology of people. And so I would say, yeah, even in design, knowing people is how you get to be a better designer as well.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I think I did one topic, you did one. Why don't you pick another one, and then we can call it a day.
Okay. Just a quick, thought about that is, did you, so there was like a great example in the Don Norman's book
Yeah.
about how if something doesn't work, you feel very stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably not your fault. It's probably the design of that thing that makes you feel stupid.
Mm.
To give you an example, me and my friend Amy, she moved into like a new place and she had this electric hob. And for 30 minutes, we did not understand how to turn on that hob. So we
Mm.
could not cook. And we're trying to like, what is it that makes this work? Because we've like pushed every buttons.
Yeah.
First of all, it feels really bad because it's all touch sensitive capacitive buttons.
Yeah.
So it also kind of like frustrates you
Yeah.
on like a like an animalistic level because you're touching something while like you're not clicking or you're not mechanically turning anything. So
Mm-hmm.
that feedback isn't there. And we turned it on, we set it at the right thing, and we tried it, and it wasn't working. And we were like, we have looked at the handbook, we don't know what's wrong. We have looked at YouTube videos, we don't know what's wrong. I call up my girlfriend, I'm like, this is what we're having this problem. And she's like, did you put something on top of the stove? And I'm like, no, I'll put it after it turns on and it heats up. And
Yeah.
she's like, no, for induction, you have to put something on first
Yeah.
and then it comes. like it comes alive.
Yeah.
I was like, that's like, that's a design problem. Because, and that's like a cultural design problem, because somebody who has not used many induction, stoves and hobs would not know.
Yeah.
It's the same thing where they also had this new door installed where to lock it, the handle has to be pushed up instead
Okay.
of, so like instead of like you turning your key and then
Yeah.
locking, to lock it, you have to take the door handle and then you have to push it up.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. That's who came up with this convention. First of all, it's like it's weird to do this. Like this motion is not
Yeah.
natural. It's not naturally like it's not natural for your hand or your elbows or whatever. But yeah, that's the.
It's funny. What are some other things that made you feel frustrated like this? I bet like the first time you took a dump after coming to the UK, were like,
I
what?
think I
Why
think toilet
all this
paper
all this
are
paper? What the
toilet paper is a medieval. That's like one thing that Western society has not figured out yet.
Yeah, I think they gave us democracy, they gave
Yeah.
us clean water, they gave us sanitation, they gave us AI,
Locomotives, cars,
transport.
trains,
Yeah, a great
coal,
number of
whatever have
things.
you. Yeah.
But they didn't give us a good way to wipe our butts, I would say. That they just gave us one of the most I think they actually regressed in this manner over the years.
Yeah, definitely. I don't even know if they ever tried it.
Yeah, pretty
Maybe
regressive.
it's too cold. Maybe it's everything is like, for me, I feel like weather based.
I mean, you could any day have a hot water stream down there if you wanted, right? You
It's
have hot water in every house.
it's hard to regulate hot water.
Yes. Yeah, I
You could
mean,
burn yourself.
okay. I I guess this is that part of the podcast where we are talking about scorched anuses.
Yes. Burnt and scorched anuses. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Um,
it's frustrating. I mean, and another thing that a friend of mine, he keeps traveling to the UK quite often for work, and he was saying that, the first time I was in Dubai,
yeah.
I could not figure out how to cross the road. And there's this high speed traffic coming across both sides. And I would just try and pick a 5-second gap where I'd see no cars coming in and I would just run across. And he
Yes.
said, I did that like 3 times. And then he says, one day I saw a woman and she was right ahead of me and she was about to cross the road. And I said, let me wait and see what she does.
Yeah.
So he waited. And this woman had a small baby also that she was carrying with her.
Right.
And all he saw her do was she just pressed something on the pole that's right next to the traffic stop, and
Right.
then she crossed. And then he said,
The
that's when it
button.
struck me. I needed to look at the pole. There is a button there. You press it, and then then the traffic stops, and then you cross. It's
Yeah,
so simple, but these are cultural problems that we just don't recognize. Even I struggled with it when I first came here to the.
exactly. Cultural conventions are like such an interesting thing. It's really like an art thing, like of its own. Like it kind of plays out like language itself. But yeah, it's really frustrating when you don't know it.
Yeah. In terms of culture, a funny thing that our common friend Nachiket was telling me the other day is that in the West, it's a very trust-based society in the sense that trust is built on top of actions. In India, trust is built on top of relationships or how you are with each other,
Right.
which I found very, very different from whatever I had read about it, at least. But then funnily enough, saw it play out.
Right.
Somebody was saying to me that like she and I, we have worked together in uni for a couple of months now for a project, and she was saying, look, it was very hard for me to trust you from right off the bat, because not because you were bad or anything, but because you're from such a different culture. She's Belgian.
Right.
She said, I just don't know what your culture looks like, or how you behave, or why you say the things you say, or why you crack the type of jokes you crack. um
Right.
that's when I started understanding that it is more about. And then she said, but later on, as we started working together, it was fine. But that's when I realized that it was more about, your actions and how it is different. Even just like interactions like this, like I'll crack a joke and you will instantly get it because you and I, we've both grown up in the same culture.
Yep.
Whereas here, I have to sort of adjust what I say a little bit so that
Right.
people here get it. Or, if sometimes they don't get it, so then I have to explain what the reference is like. So
Yeah.
that is a bit of a struggle, I find.
Yeah. One of my biggest like moments of happiness is when the UK, anybody from the UK um assumes like, okay, there's, and very fairly I must say, that we might not know something about their culture, but and then me telling them that, oh, we have the same thing in India because of, you know, we were part of the empire.
Yeah.
So this happened to me in like one of like parties that I was with, like with my friends, and Amy, my English friend, was talking about greeting cards. And I
Mm.
was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then everybody who was European, not from the UK, was like, what do you mean like greeting cards? We don't really have those, the cards that say like they only have postcards.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's crazy, because literally I knew what greeting cards are, which is like those things that like open up,
Yeah.
those pamphlets that you give on your birthday or like Mother's Day or like Father's Day or whatever,
Yeah.
anniversary, what have you, for every occasion. And this is something that we have and the UK has, but for some reason Europeans don't have that,
Mm.
which was like, oh. And Amy and I laughed so hard because she didn't think that, oh, I would know either, but just because colonialism, we know exactly what they do. And yesterday's or day before yesterday, I met somebody. um I went to Peterborough, and I met somebody who picked me up to take me to a factory, and we were just talking, and his name was Simon. And
Mm.
Simon, I asked Simon, like, oh, what is it that you do? And then Simon said, what you would call here in the UK is I'm a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
And then he went on to explain what that means, the idiom itself.
Mm.
And I was like, I know. It's okay. We have the same idioms, by the way. We
Yeah,
have
I
the same
mean,
nursery rhyme.
you can't fault them for not knowing because it's not
Oh
like
no.
they're taught the history of the British Empire in school these days.
Exactly.
I find that most of them don't know about it in as much detail as we do.
Yep.
Uh, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, if you
In
go to,
fact, if you were
yeah,
to tell them Britain was a colony of India, half of them might even believe it.
right. I mean, yeah, and it's not to their fault, and it's not like a bad thing, but it's a great pleasure of mine to remind them that, oh, these are the repercussions of the colonial times, that we
Yeah.
know of this just because you were there for so many years. But yeah,
Yeah, there are a few other quirky things that I find that are a little bit different. Like what we eat, we
yep,
eat papad, right, at home. Over here, it's called
Papa,
papadums.
right,
Papadums.
yep,
And when I saw it in the aisles at Tesco, I couldn't figure out what it was. I thought it looked familiar. Then
yes,
one of my British friends, he's like, "Oh, do you have papadums at in India? I find them so delicious. I always have them." I said, "What?" He said, "Like a baked, fried, bready thing,
right,
quite
right,
crunchy." And then he made me try one, and I said, "Yeah, that's papad." He said,
right.
"You mean papadums?" I said, "No, that's papad."
Right, exactly. But it's so cool. It's and I'll leave it like after this example. My boss, as I was leaving the internship yesterday, she gave me like a really nice gift, a package of all Scottish and British sweets, chocolates that she thought that like I should try. I
Yeah.
had tried most of them, but like some of them I had not tried. And then she explained to me like all of them one by one. And she gave me like the first one was like Cadbury. And immediately, like I stopped her and I told her, like Cadbury is like the number one chocolate brand in India. It's like the biggest
Mm.
brand that you can get.
Yeah.
And it was like so surprising to her.
Oof.
Yeah.
Cool. I think again, which is on brand for us. We had like 6 topics. We talked about like maybe 2 of them.
Two
And
of
I
them.
that's
Yeah.
fine. That's I but how about this? Do you want to do another one next week? And probably we can do it more businessy, more entrepreneurship related.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. Cool. Uh
Okay.
I think that's the pod.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
All
That
right.
was good. I mean, it's always just fun to talk about like these random things. You never
Yeah.
know how they will inform. But yeah, next time, let's make it structured. Let's make it business. Let's make it entrepreneurship.
You got to make a Notion doc for that.
Okay, I'll make a Notion doc for that.
Yeah. All right. I'm stopping recording then.
Okay.